This is Valley News Live at 10.
I think that's what's really scary as a parent, is the not knowing.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A Detroit Lakes mom is speaking out about her concerns after recent threats were made to 3 schools in the district. Valley News Team's Alex Larson has more on how this parent is feeling about the situation.
Amanda Schumer has 4 kids in the Detroit Lakes School District. After recent threats against her kids' schools were made, she is now concerned for their safety.
They were not quite as upset, unfortunately, because it's something that, you know, it's more common nowadays. My youngest son, who is in Rossman, he has autism and he's nonverbal. He's in a special needs class, so if something were to happen in his school, he would not be able to communicate that to us, and I think that brings it to another level of, you know, stress for a parent.
Valley News Live received a concerning tip on our whistleblower hotline on November 1st from someone saying they were going to, quote, shoot up DL High School. The police said in a Facebook post that the person who made the threat was found and dealt with immediately.
I know social media, it probably has a lot to play in it. Sometimes kids will say things and they don't think that it will be taken seriously.
Most recently, 27-year-old Jeffrey Scott Gunderson was arrested for making threats against Rossman Elementary School to his probation officer.
And it's really unfortunate because it was against his own brother, is my understanding. And so there's a certain level where you know you don't want your family business to be out in public, especially in small towns. But when it gets to the point where it's impacting the safety of other members of the community, then it's essential for us to be aware of these situations.
Schumer says she was not notified of the most recent threat. In an email sent to parents by the school, officials say they did not know about the possible threat.
I think that's what's really scary as a parent, is the not knowing. Previously, the week before, we had a few incidents where there were some threats as well, and the police department made it a point to let us know in the community that they would let us know if anything like this ever happened again.
Gunderson was arrested shortly after meeting with and making the threat to his probation officer. The school district also says in the email they are working with local law enforcement to ensure parents stay informed of these kinds of situations. Alex Larson, Valley News Live.
Now, we also reached out to the Detroit Lakes Police Department, but they declined to comment on the situation at this time. A 25-year-old Ada woman was taken to the hospital after her SUV was struck on I94 just west of Dalton. A Minnesota State Patrol report says the woman's SUV was stopped partially in the lane of traffic as she was checking on another vehicle that had gone off the road. The SUV was then struck by what authorities believe to be a white pickup truck. The woman's injuries are said to not be life-threatening. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer held a press conference in New York today. He spoke about how the increasing gas prices are impacting Americans. Schumer says President Biden's administration should tap into emergency petroleum reserves to lower the rising prices.
When gas prices go up, families pinch and pinch and pinch. Less money for groceries, less money for everyday expenses, less money for the high cost of prescription drugs, which we're trying to do something about in our Build Back Better bill. Yes, COVID's wreaked havoc on our supply chains. No industry is spared, but fuel, gasoline is the worst of all.
Schumer says this would only be a temporary fix, but it will help deal with the price shock caused by fossil fuel supply. Consumer prices continue to skyrocket in the U.S. It's not only impacting everyday Americans, but also small business owners who are having to adapt on the fly as inflation affects their industries. Valley News Team's Aaron Walling has more on how some are trying to navigate through the ups and downs of rising prices.
If it's any indication, it's really hard.
Inflation has been causing prices in the U.S. to soar in certain areas, and it is definitely impacting small business owners who now have to adapt to keep their businesses going.
It was a surprise when it went up so fast. I've had to change some of my prices just to be able to survive.
It's obviously really hard when your costs have to go up, then your prices have to go up.
The rate of inflation has climbed to 6.2% as of last month, compared to back in February when it was at 1.7%. Steidel has advice for businesses that are facing these price hikes.
Don't underprice yourself. Your work is worth it. People will come if they like your product. They'll like it if it's a little bit higher because they understand.
For these small business owners, being able to lean on one another and receiving support from the community, some say it helps with trying to offset the impacts of inflation.
I practice what I preach. I shop small business. I support small business. I give small business at Christmas time. So it's really important that we all support each other, because if we can't do it, then how do we expect anyone else to?
In Fargo, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
The owner of Hooked on Yarn says her advice for aspiring small business owners is to keep going and to find a strong support system. The CDC is reporting that more than 1 million children under the age of 12 have received their first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. It's been 2 weeks since the FDA authorized the coronavirus vaccine for children ages 5 to 11 years old. Currently, 195 million Americans have been fully vaccinated, which is 59% of the U.S. population. And about 15% of all fully vaccinated people have received an additional dose or booster so far. The Oklahoma National Guard is rejecting the Defense Department's vaccine mandate in a move that could have national repercussions. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt wrote Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin to request the suspension of the COVID-19 vaccine requirement for his state's National Guard. Oklahoma's 10,000 National Guard members were notified that they are not required to be vaccinated. State and National Guard officials say soldiers and airmen won't be punished for declining the vaccine. Nationwide, the Army National Guard, which faces a June deadline to comply with the Pentagon's mandate, is currently about 46% fully vaccinated. The Florida State Legislature is heading back in for a special session starting tomorrow to block federal vaccine mandates. Governor Ron DeSantis has called the special session to ask state lawmakers to pass more measures in defiance of the Biden administration's coronavirus measures. The 4 bills before state lawmakers would increase penalties for businesses and local government that require workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19. The new Republican-backed laws, if passed, would strengthen the governor's executive orders, including one that gives parents the right to decide whether their kids should wear masks in schools. Hackers compromised the Federal Bureau of Investigation's external email system yesterday. This is according to a report from Bloomberg News. The hackers sent out tens of thousands of emails from an FBI email account warning of a possible cyber attack, citing a threat tracking organization called the Spam Halls Project. In a statement, the FBI expressed they are aware of the fake emails originating from an FBI account. Later on Valley News Live at 10, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill is set to be signed by President Joe Biden tomorrow. But up next, more snow is headed for the valleys. Summer is in with more details.